Hello and welcome back to The Pirates Don't Eat the Tourists. Now, if you're listening to this on the main feed, then you're in the right place. This is episode 2 of Hey Roland, a bonus show that normally lives behind that subscriber button. Once a month, subscribers get me, no guest, no safety net, no perimeter fences, talking through the news, the obsessions, and the various dinosaur-related things that are going on in this Jurassic world. And today that world is open, so consider this a free sampler of what you get when you subscribe to this podcast. On the show today, I want to talk about obviously the biggest news, which is Gareth Edwards walking away from Jurassic World Rebirth's sequel. Who might be coming in? There's a list that is floating around, so I'm just going to talk through the names on that list and just, you can hear my opinions of them and who I think are the best picks from that list. I'll also catch up a little bit about my time at DinoCon this year in Birmingham, and then I'll set up my very special conversation with James Mottram that's happening next week, and that's an episode all about Sam Neill, and it's an episode that you can contribute to. So this is Hey Roland, let's get into it. So first off, the news, and the news that came on the 6th of August. And let me just bring up actually the Hollywood Reporter's site so I can read that as well. So here we go. So headline is Jurassic World Rebirth sequel loses director Gareth Edwards over creative differences. This is, for me personally, a big blow. I think the best thing about Rebirth was his vision, and to come in at the late stage that he did after the last guy, who I won't even mention, left the project, and he was able to bring a film that was on budget and beat out so much competition last summer. So it grossed $869 million, and I think it was a surprise really that it took that amount of money, because, and this is the reason why lots of people have their problems with Rebirth, is because it didn't have those ties to the previous 3 films. It didn't feel like a Jurassic World film. It felt more like a Jurassic Park film. And that is something that I think Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall really wanted to get back to. It's a strange place to be in, because Jurassic World relaunched the franchise, and we just wouldn't have it at all if that film hadn't done what it did and brought people back to the cinema to watch dinosaurs again. If that film had failed in 2015, we wouldn't be sitting here now quibbling about Gareth Edwards and the ins and outs of why they didn't like Rebirth or why people love Rebirth. I'm very much of the camp that I really enjoyed Rebirth, because I was never a massive fan of the World trilogy. I went to see them, I enjoyed them, but I didn't enjoy them in the way that I enjoyed Rebirth. I could put aside all my differences, all my issues with the World films, and Rebirth has its problems as well, some massive script problems, but I'll get to that in a minute. But what I really liked about Gareth Edwards is I just love his attention to the visuals and to make you believe in a world and animals that just feel real. They have a weight to them, and that's what Gareth does. Every single time, he always has amazing special effects, and his way that he talks to special effects people is incredible, and I think this is a big blow, I think. Now, the facts of the matter are that it states that it's creative differences that Gareth Edwards has walked away from. I don't think that's the whole truth. I think this is definitely a moment where Gareth Edwards wanted more control of the script, and certain reports that have come out after the filming of last year's film, they paint a picture that Gareth would, before shooting would take place on a scene, he wouldn't reveal any issues that he had with the scene until they were just about to film. And then he'd be like, I think we need to rethink this script. We really need to rethink the dialogue here. So I think that's sort of what's played into this as well. And I just think that Marshall and Spielberg, they might have taken their eye off the ball with Dominion and didn't exert as much pressure maybe as they should have done in Dominion. So they've sort of come in even stronger with Rebirth and had more of an effect on that film. And so they want to keep that because it was a success, but they think it was a success because they were and I'm not saying that they're heavy-handed, maybe slightly heavy-handed with it, slightly more hands-on with the production, more so than they were with Dominion, and that's clearly paid off. They've got more money, they didn't have to spend so much. Great. This is how we make Jurassic films now going forward. And then you've got Gareth Edwards, probably wanted more money, wanted a little bit more input. And they're like, well, we don't really need that because we've sort of proved that last time. We got you involved and you just did all the pointing shooty things and talked to the visual effects people and we sort of did the rest. And look, we made a bunch of money out of it and people really like the films again. So I worry that getting rid of such a visual director as Gareth Edwards and just going down the route of just hiring a shooter to make these, you've got to be so confident of your script. And that was the weakest part of Rebirth for me, was that script by David Koepp, the person we thought would come back and re-energise it. He really did a back to basics script. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it didn't have much life past that at all, really. And I really hope, because as a part of this article also states that David Koepp is coming back to write the script. It hasn't sort of officially said that, but that's what it implies is that definitely that David Koepp has written the latest draft of the screenplay. So whether he ends up doing the whole thing all the way through or just, passes it on at some point over the next 12 months, we're going to have a new film, not next year, but the year after. Definitely. And we'll be shooting next year. And so we're going to hear about a new director very soon, I think. So let's just look at some of these. So this is from Jurassic Outpost's latest video. And so I'll put the link for that video in the show notes. You can go and watch it yourself. It's a good video, great video, always do amazing videos. So first up on the list, Brian Duffield. And his film that's coming out this year is Whaleful, and the trailer for that is absolutely terrifying. And the book it looks amazing, so it's based on a book. Always great to have that literary source. So maybe Brian Duffield is the person that they're circulating the most. I wouldn't be surprised. He's a name that doesn't really mean a lot to me. So getting somebody in who can clearly do creature features, I think he's probably the number one pick, and I think he'll probably end up getting the job. Skip to next week when they announce somebody else. So who else have we got on the list? You've got Dan Trenchenberg. Sorry if I say that wrong. 10 Cloverfield Lane, Prey, Predator Badlands. I think he's probably who fans want the most. I mean, I think he'd be great. I'd never know about the story side of things. Prey's great because it's very little dialogue. And are we heading towards that territory with Jurassic? Less dialogue, more just people running away from dinosaurs. I don't know whether I really want that from a Jurassic film. I think part of the joy of Jurassic Park is the differences of opinion, the conflict, which I talked about a lot last season. I want that conflict between characters and dubious, nefarious activities going on, and the dinosaurs being animals and being just stuck in the middle of warring humans. I think that's what I love about Jurassic. If I could instill it down, that's what I love. But, definitely an exceptionally visual filmmaker. Who else? Lee Whannell. I can't imagine that he would do it, but he is Blumhouse, and Universal go hand in hand, so maybe. Edgar Wright is a very interesting name on the list. Apparently he was going to direct Rebirth, but then he was offered Running Man, so decided to go and do Running Man instead because it was a passion project for him. That didn't really set the box office alight, so maybe he'll be circled again. I feel like, and I chatted with James Lovegrove a little bit about this yesterday, actually, when I bumped into him, and he said, if only Edgar Wright could sort of get out from behind himself and maybe just having a script that he can film and just not worry about that too much. But I just feel like he's somebody who is very precious over his projects and wants to be very heavily involved in all parts of it, including the script. And I just don't think he'll back down from that. He's not a shooter for hire, but I think his set pieces would be phenomenal. So yeah, I don't know, maybe Paul Greengrass is on that list. I mean, great for action sequences. I haven't actually heard or seen a Paul Greengrass film in a very long time, so maybe he's circling to try and come back. This would be a good project to try and get your name back out there attached to something. Very low stakes for a director as well, really, of his vintage, because it just gets your name out there and there's not much expected of you, really. Just provide the visuals and the world of the film, because you're not going to have much input in the script. So script is away, you just do this, that is it. So maybe he would be a big name to attach to this. Now, the most interesting name on this list is Ari Aster. Hereditary, Midsommar, Beau is Afraid. He is A24. Could a Jurassic film be A24? Maybe. I think he's on this list because he's currently working with Scarlett Johansson on a film, and we know that Scarlett Johansson is coming back for Rebirth's sequel. So maybe she's having some sway in this and say, well, actually, he'd be really up for making this and do it in a short turnaround project. The director's going to be brought on, design everything, work with the actors. That's pretty much it. And then it'll all be handed off to other people before and after. So it might be a really thrilling experience to be part of. Not if you want a huge amount of creative control or a ton of money. I think they're going to keep both of those quite quiet. There's a couple of names that I would love to throw out there as well. Bryce Dallas Howard, an obvious choice, really, for this series. She's done incredible work with Star Wars. I know lots of fans would like her to come back to the franchise, but do it behind the camera. I feel like she won't, just because she's got such a close-knit community in Disney and that sort of area. I think coming back to this would be slightly regressive for her, even if it's behind the camera. I don't think that she'd be up for it. I think she wants a little bit more control, and for a first proper film project to be a Jurassic, I don't know. I'm not convinced. Nia DaCosta, I'd love to see. She's my name that I want to throw out there because I think her visuals are incredible. She's worked with Marvel and has survived. Marvel's wasn't a great film, but that has nothing to do with her. I think the visuals of that film are brilliant, and she's the reason for that. And I think with something slightly more down to earth, she could bring a world that was really interesting and some interesting character dynamics. Plus, can we stop making lists that are just 10 men, please? When we're thinking about directors, let's just have some other names. Let's have a bit more interesting thing rather than people that just look like each other and have been either newly in the industry or just circling the industry for a long time. If we're going to do something new and you're going to get a shooter for hire for this film, let's get somebody who brings something different to the table that maybe isn't a fanboy of the 1970s blockbusters. Should we try and do that, please, in 2026? For goodness sake. Okay, that's my real ramble through this news. To sum it up, it's, I think, a big mistake that Gareth Edwards has gone. I would have loved to have seen a full project with him involved and him having a bit more say in the script. But we are where we are. Let's try and make it interesting. Let's try and make this a good film. I think David Kett was right in that article that he wrote a month ago, that said that he's trying to crack the story of Rebirth's sequel. But whatever they do, it has to be a singular good film and not think about setting up a trilogy or a sequel. And that's what Rebirth did really well. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Let's just do another beginning, middle, and end. Right, let's move on from dinosaurs on the screen to the dinosaurs in Birmingham in the hotel ballroom. And let me tell you about DinoCon. So at the end of July, I got on a train, 3 trains actually, and went to DinoCon UK at the Hilton Metropole in Birmingham. 2 days of paleontologist talks, dealers, and people who care about dinosaurs as much as I do. And here's how it went. So what really made me want to go this year was all the pictures I saw of last year's convention at Exeter. And starting this podcast and the conversations I've been having with people around this sphere, I just wanted to get out and meet people in person and genuinely talk to them about the things that I love, which is dinosaurs, Jurassic, films, and it was amazing. So before I went, Tom Jurassic, shout out to Tom Jurassic, an amazing person. He was filming the event as he did previously, and he added me to a group and then met up with a load of people. We went for pizza at Pizza Express, and it's one of those things when you go to these conventions, there is the secret sort of icebreaker to all conversations, and that is all of this small talk is done before you even arrive, really. So you can just go straight in and you can talk about Rebirth, you can talk about why you liked it, you can talk about why other people didn't like it, you can do all these amazing things. And it was also through my conversation with Mark Whitten earlier on in the year, and he said, if you're there, just come and say hello. And so that's what I did. So I'm going to look through the program because I'm a few weeks out from it, and I'm just going to have a look. And huge hall there, so where all the talks were going on, that was just amazing. So, I mean, this is the activities. This is what was going on through the actual thing. You can't see that at all. So, Matt Dempsey, he started it off with a reconstructing dinosaur form and function. The talks were incredibly technical, a lot of them, but very accessible. For me, who I always say my dino knowledge is stuck in 1993, and the sort of bits that I pick up is quickly lost sometimes. So it's just great to hear from people that are so passionate and they want to understand dinosaurs as the animals they are, how they moved, how their muscles worked, to try and put them in the 3D space and not just as dusty old bones that you see. So Matt Dempsey's great visual depiction of how dinosaurs move and locomotion, muscle mass, great stuff. Really want to get to talk to him on the podcast as well. Of course, he was wearing a Jurassic Park t-shirt, had a little chat with him as well. Yeah, really, really nice guy. Everybody was nice. Dean Lomax, Bob Nichols. Dean Lomax, I managed to chat to as well. So hopefully, fingers crossed, get him on to the podcast later on in the year. Talked about his book, Secret Lives of Dinosaurs. And that really made me think about how paleontologists still, ever since Gideon Mantell, they're telling those stories. That's what's really interesting to me. And for this series is looking at how we bring these animals to life by putting people in peril with them. And that's sort of what has always been the way with paleontology and trying to bring extinct worlds back to life. Fiction and creativity has to be part of it. There has to be an element of the unknown that skilled paleontologists and popular science writers can come into that space and really bring those worlds alive for a lay person like me. Chelsea Knife, she did an amazing talk about women in paleontology, and that was really illuminating, just going through all of these different people. I knew obviously about Mary Anning. There's quite a lot of Marys, actually. It was the time. I think that Mary Mantle, Gideon Mantell's wife, there's lots of people, but I'm bringing that all up to the present day. So that was a great experience. David Armsby talking about his series Dinosauria. Wow. I mean, the level of detail that he went into in that talk. He was the guest of honour, and that was a really packed and just appreciative audience as well. I went to Terrible Lizards, so got to see Dave Hone and Izzy Lawrence. Spoke to Izzy, and fingers crossed again, getting to talk about dinosaurs and writing. Like, why is it important to have kids fiction in dinosaurs? She's a children's author as well, a great children's author. Emma Nichols' talk on Sunday, which was all about 200 years of Megalosaurus. This was probably my favourite talk of the event, just because I really love the history. And, I said I didn't like, it's nice when you just don't have dusty bones and people put lots of flesh on them, but I have a passion for the history of people and paleontology. And her talk about William Buckland and the Oxford University Museum where she works, and just how this creature from 200 years ago to 2025, and she really brought that animal to life with using paleo art from Mark Whitten, and it was an amazing talk, very inclusive, which the entire event was. It was, it was a really, really great event, and Darren and the rest of the organisers, founders, and I just think that if you can get to DinoCon 2027, you definitely should be factoring that into your year if you love dinosaurs and you just want to meet like-minded people and have really nice, respectful, interesting, dynamic conversations about them and hear them as well. I also got to hear Dave Hone talk about Spinosaurus. Dave Hone is brilliant. He is the Alan Grant for me of all of this. Alan Grant from Jurassic Park 3, that's Dave Hone. His talk was very much akin to Alan Grant at the start of Jurassic Park 3 when he sort of, don't talk to me about this, that and the other. He's lovingly grumpy, and that's because he's got an absolute knowledge and passion about paleontology, and I think how paleontology is represented in the world. And it's the Terrible Lizard podcast is just so much fun to listen to. I'm going to put a link for it in the show notes down below, but go and listen to it if you haven't listened to it already and you love dinosaurs. I don't know why you're not listening to it if you like dinosaurs. Go and listen to Terrible Lizards now. Stop listening to me. Go and listen to it now. Also, Mark Whitten, pick this up from him. I like dinosaurs before they were cool. And I do, Mark. I do. Now, one of the many threads that was running through that whole weekend was the fact that before the event, the Jurassic community lost Sam Neill. Sam Neill died, and that brings me to the next episode that's going to be on the main feed. So a couple of weeks ago, I sat down with James Mottram, wrote the visual history books of the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World series, did the script book, which Derek Davis was involved in, and we just had a conversation about Sam Neill as an actor, going through his filmography, and also James was able to share the times that he'd met and talked to Sam Neill. So I'm just going to play a little bit from that episode now for you.
It's got to be the taking the sunglasses off, yes. Right? I mean, but that is one of the greatest reaction shots ever in cinema. I mean, because obviously he wasn't reacting to anything when he was on set.
No.
Possibly Spielberg with a bullhorn or something, but it's, and he could just pull off that. And yet he's also, and that is quite larger than life, obviously, that moment, as it should be. But then he's incapable of incredible subtleties, So, he kind of had it all, really. And he has that charisma as a movie star, but he just would never think of himself as one.
No. Yeah. And looking at his 90s work, and I was thinking of what's his biggest meme. He also has In the Mouth of Madness when he wakes up.
No, I haven't seen that film in a long time. That's the John Carpenter horror movie, right?
Yeah, which I think is sort of, I'm a big John Carpenter fan. I think that's probably his last great sort of film that he could actually get made with some money behind it. And Sam Neill seemingly had an amazing time working with John Carpenter, and John Carpenter said some very nice things when the passing, just said he enjoyed working with him, and it comes across in that film. Actually, I've watched it a long time ago, but recently Arrow did a 4K release of it, and it's a gloriously bizarre film where Neill is that slightly larger than life character, and he has that sort of old fashioned Hollywood star, like you would have had, like in the 40s and the 50s, you would have had like a studio player, and that's what he feels like in that film, and in a couple of others of his films where he's the lead. Now, Alan Grant means a lot to me. I don't know whether I've fully processed the fact that he's gone, and I think it's because I haven't watched a Jurassic yet with him in. And I watched Jurassic Park at the cinema actually in June with a friend from work, and I think watching that for the moment is the one that I want to sort of keep in my mind. I think it'll change the film the next time I go and see it, or the next time I sit down and watch it. So I sort of want to keep that memory of going to see it while Sam was still alive, and he is the centre of Jurassic. Ian Malcolm gets the cool lines, but Sam Neill and Alan Grant is the heart. And he is so different to that character that we get in the book. The character is gruffer. He doesn't change really at all. He is just a paleontologist. It's a lot of Crichton's work. They are vehicles for Crichton to get his opinions out of. So Malcolm is his greatest analogue in the book. And Alan Grant is really just a generic paleontologist of the time, I think. This might be a little bit harsh, but Sam Neill rounds out that performance and puts the soul into Alan Grant, which isn't there in the book. And that's what Sam Neill did to all of his performances. No matter if he was a villain, if he was just a small side character, there was a fleshed out, real, living person in everything that he did. And that meant that he was magnetic without ever taking the attention away from where the film's vision was. If he was a supporting actor, he never wanted to come in and take over, but he also was somebody who was, you just couldn't take your eyes off him. So that episode will be coming out next Wednesday, and I really want as many people to be involved in that. So in the show notes for every episode of The Pirates Don't Eat the Tourists, there is a fan mail button, and you can leave me a voicemail. And what I'd love to do for the Sam Neill tribute episode is to have some remembrances from any of you listening of Sam Neill. Can be Jurassic related, can be anything. If you want to let me know your thoughts about Sam Neill and your tribute to him, and you're happy for me to broadcast that on the next episode, then just click away. Or if you want to write me a message, then please do, and I'll read it out in the next episode. And that's Hey Roland. That is the show. It is me rambling on, working through stuff that I need to because I don't have an outlet for it to chat to other people about this subject and these things. And there's much more where that came from. So episodes like this will land monthly, sometimes even more frequently. The more subscribers I have, the more episodes I will make. And then the main feed, that stays completely free, and that's fortnightly. And so, I'm currently looking at all of dinosaur fiction with sort of the tentpole books within that genre. It's 200 odd years worth of fiction that I'm going through, and I'm talking to guests. I'm also doing episodes where I unpack maybe the social history of the time, the paleontology of the era as well, talking to some amazing experts. These people have studied for years in this sphere. I'm talking to authors about the creation of art, and it's been an amazing experience. And I think just starting the series already, I had my 3 episodes where I looked at, before dinosaurs got a name, the history of dinosaur discovery in Victorian England. Then I looked at the history of science fiction, which is where all these dinosaur fiction stories live. And I've now done 2 episodes on the actual books. First with Cian Gill, and we talked about Journey to the Centre of the Earth. Please go and listen to his podcast, The Lost Valley Pod. I'll link to that there's a lot of links going on in this episode. I'll link to his show, his latest episode down below, which is all about King Solomon's Mines. I might do an episode on Rider Haggard in this sort of format for subscribers. But his episode is amazing, and he researches everything so meticulously. It's just such, you could do a university degree, I think, on some of his episodes. And then I had Richard Fallon, and we talked about The Lost World. And, he has read The Lost World more times than I've had hot dinners, and so knowledgeable. And it was great to be able to dig into the characters of The Lost World and look at their real life counterparts and who Doyle was circling at the time. And Doyle's such an interesting and gregarious character that it was brilliant to chat to Richard about that. And then in a few weeks, I'm actually still going to be unpacking The Lost World, because I've got Eddie Guimont coming in 4 weeks' time, and his episode is all about cryptozoology of the era, of the Edwardian period, late Victorian, and that exploration. We also touch on Michael Crichton's Congo. So that'll be in a few weeks' time. But if subscribing is not for you, I completely understand it. The single most helpful thing that you can do for me is to follow the show follow me on Instagram at Jurassic Pirates Pod. Leave a rating and just maybe tell one person about this show. I didn't even mention my Matthew Myerscough episode. How could I forget? It was amazing. And actually, he's been in The Guardian. He's been on BBC News. Yeah, that was my first video episode, proper video episode. And Matthew, I mean, he says that I'm a great supporter of his, which I am on Instagram. He is an equally great supporter of this podcast. And so I just want to say a massive thank you to him for just being exceptionally positive and telling a story that I think gets to the heart of a lot of how people feel in modern society, that it's that need to slow down. And fossil hunting is his way of getting everything back on track. And go and listen to our conversation. He's an amazing person. And I'm going to stop rambling now and say I'll see you in the main feed for my episode with James Mottram about Sam Neill. But until then, I'll just say thank you very, very much for listening. And I just really hope that the pirates don't eat the tourists.